Hello and welcome everyone to Teslanomics Live. I'm your host Ben Sullins, and this is the show where we break down the latest Tesla news from the week that has passed. We do it live because, as you know, things move quickly in the world of Tesla and Elon Musk, and today, this week, is no exception. Before we dive too deep into it, if you're new here, thank you for joining me. I'll be hosting a live Q&A at the end of our news bit, and that is hosted on Crowdcast. If you'd like to be a part of that and vote on questions, ask questions, you just need to get on our email list at teslanomics.co/join, and we'll send you an invite a few hours before the show begins, and then you can hop in there and kind of chat with everyone else and all that. So with that out of the way, let's dive right in. Now, the first bit I want to talk about is actually something that I'm putting on again this year, which is TeslaCon. So TeslaCon is a gathering of the Tesla and EV community, and we're getting together to have some great speakers and talk about what's going on in the world of Tesla and electric vehicles and kind of our transition to sustainable energy and transportation. You can join and be invited to actually ask questions of these folks and vote on questions and chat with others. This does require a fee. It's $99 this year or $100, and it will also be broadcast live to YouTube. Some of the speakers we have lined up are Robert Llewellyn from Fully Charged, who's joining us yet again, Trevor Page from Model 3 Owners Club, I always say Zach and Jesse, so it's Jesse and Zach from Now You Know, Saul Lopez from his own channel, Saul Lopez from Europe, Ryan McCaffrey from Ride Lighting Podcast, who just scored an interview with Elon Musk. Stoked for you. And Galileo Russell from Hyperchange TV, as well as a few others yet to be announced. So if you want to be a part of the session and join and do the Q&A and really interact, then you need to go purchase a ticket. Also, 25% of the proceeds this year will be going to the Electric Auto Association, which is the nonprofit here in the United States that helps education and electric vehicle adoption, all of those kind of things. So if you're into that, you want to help support it, there you go, teslacon.online. If not, and you just want to watch live on YouTube, that's totally fine as well. I'll be setting all that up here in the next few days, and so stay tuned for that. You can set a reminder, and then when the show goes live, you'll be able just to sit back and watch. So there's that plug for the week. I want to just give you guys that heads up. Also, I wanted to mention that I finally updated the cost calculator on my site here. So on teslanomics.co, you can go to calculators and see the Teslanomic cost calculator. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but these prices change so rapidly that I kind of just stopped updating it for a little while, but I went back. I actually hired a developer to help with some of this stuff, and between me and him, we were able to get it updated. So if you're wondering about the cost of owning a Model 3, you can go do so here by selecting your options. It even has fancy stuff like if you select performance, it switches to the sport wheels and all that. And the thing I like about this, or the thing I'm proud about, is that it dives deeper than just the top level numbers, right? So if you don't want to finance the whole thing, you can punch in a different amount for the loan. You can customize all this kind of stuff here. Then it goes into charging, like, okay, well, how do you drive? Slow, moderate, or fast? We could put, chill, sport, or ludicrous, or something like that. Also, how far is your commute? What is your price per kilowatt hour on electricity? Now, some of these things will default if you're in a state in the United States, for example, it will look up the average rate, using the government data that's out there. So, adjust this based on your needs. And then you can go down and you can enter any, whatever the insurance is. You can get a quote here, and then any incentives. And lastly, you click see the results, and it'll show you essentially a breakdown of how much your car is going to cost. So then you see an image of it, you see the monthly cost estimate, the charging details, the net cost, etc. So I updated it. It's there, barring any other changes that Tesla might do. So we'll see, but I'll try to keep it updated now. I have someone there able to help. So if you've been wondering about that, there it is. Go get it. All right. So the first story I want to get into is one that was prompted by an article I saw recently on Forbes. And it's a question that's been asked for quite a while. The question is about leasing a Model 3. So you can already lease a Model S and Model X, but the Model 3 you cannot lease currently. You have to, buy it. You either take a loan through Tesla financing, and they'll probably just send you off to one of their partners, or you can do it from, your own bank or whatever, or you can just pay cash. Kind of cool. Now, there are some other options, and I will be talking about these in the future to kind of hack that system a little bit and get an even better deal, but stay tuned for that. Right now, I just wanted to break down and kind of dig into this. So, to my surprise, I didn't really know about this. A large percentage of luxury cars are leased. So this is the article here from Jack Narad, and it was, leasing could give the Model 3 a boost. So I wanted to just dive into that. And then on Kelley Blue Book, it states that 40 to 50% of new luxury vehicles are leased, not purchased. Now, in recent years, non-luxury cars are also increasing in that. And the New York Times had an article here, which they sourced the data from Edmunds, showing that leasing is on the rise. And this is, a bit old at this point, but the trend continues. Now, BMW, for example, leased more cars in 2017 than it sold. So that's kind of a huge thing. Now, this could be important for Tesla's revenue, particularly as the tax credit phases out at the end of this year, and then, completely at the end of 2019, unless there's a change there. So as that transition occurs, this could be a way for Tesla to kind of bring on even more people. Now, they also cited it recently in an interview here, or this is, I think, was their Q3 update letter, where they said, let me see, there remain significant opportunities to grow the addressable market for Model 3 by introducing leasing, standard battery, and other low-priced variants of the car by starting international delivery. So that's good news for you guys if you're international. But also, if you've been wondering or waiting on this, you might be able to lease one. To me, this is the first time they've kind of publicly stated, hey, there could be an opportunity here. So that is all good. So the thing that stood out to me, though, is like, do they need this? Is it really something that is necessary? So in kind of the luxury space, this is super common. And the way it works is that when you lease a vehicle, you're paying for the depreciation, during the duration of the lease. And so if a car has a really good depreciation, meaning it holds its value really well, like a BMW, then you'll be paying less for it than you probably would have if you were going to buy it. Now, if you don't need it for the entire length, if you don't plan on keeping it for 10 years or longer, then it turns out to be a better financial move for you. So I do see the potential here, but even looking at the October sales here, and this is from Good Car, Bad Car, you can see that the Model 3, and this is a bit down, I'm not sure if these numbers are 100% right, it's still in what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the top 6. It's the 6th most selling car in the United States, and all these other cars here are significantly cheaper than the Model 3 is, even at the new mid-price range. So could it be something that helps Tesla as the tax credit phases out to continue to grow demand and make it even more affordable to own one of these cars? Yeah, I think so. I think it definitely could. Now, is it necessary, and will they do it? I don't think it's necessary in the short term, but I definitely think they will do it in the long term. Now, this also opens it up, and I don't have data on this, but this also opens it up for businesses, because a lot of businesses that have rental car businesses, or even businesses where this is like your company car, leasing is often preferred, because then you don't take on the full liability of owning the asset. So it's one of those things where I think there's a lot of benefits here, and a lot of folks are also looking for this, but I don't know if it's entirely necessary now. So we'll see, maybe when they do it. So leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Would you lease over buy? Why or why not? I'm curious. I'll be checking the comments later. So there you have it. Now, another interesting thing that happened just recently was that Elon went on, and we had an interview with Kara Swisher on their new podcast from Recode. I think it's called Decode. So Recode, Decode. Now, with that, it looks like there was some really interesting here. It was an 80-minute podcast, and in it, there were some key kind of things that they talked about. And I just want to recap kind of my thoughts on this. I know other people have done videos on it and stuff like that, but for me, I think I just want to give you kind of what I got out of it. Now, I didn't listen to the article, or I'm sorry, listen to the podcast, but I did read through this whole thing here. And so this is an interesting bit. I love that they transcribed it and put it in this format, because I often can read and skim through things much faster than I can like listen to them in sort of a linear fashion. All right. So first thought after the interview with Kara Swisher. First is they talked about full self-driving. Now, and so Kara said, you don't need anything else from the government or from infrastructure or anything. I was recently talking to the Mercedes people, and they were talking about sensors in the roads. Elon responded, yeah, that's hopeless. That would at best be a specialized solution, and whatever city puts stuff in roads. You can always make something work for a specific solution, like some special case solution in some town. You can make that easy. But what you really want is a general solution for self-driving that works worldwide. Now, the bit here that got me was where he said worldwide, because I think that is overly ambitious. And so she followed up and said, so there are missing elements. What you're saying, what are you saying? The generalized solution. And then Elon responded and said, yeah, I mean, you need a specialized inference engine like the Tesla Hardware 3 Autopilot computer that will start rolling into production early next year. Is 10 times better than the next best system out there at the same price, which by the way is the current system that's in the Tesla Model 3, volume and power consumption. And it's really because it's got a dedicated neural net chip, which basically, it sounds complicated, but it's really like a matrix multiplier with a local memory. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. So the thing that struck me about this was that Elon was saying you need a generalized worldwide system. And in order to do that, you need this significant hardware. And they've already talked about the hardware upgrades, and these will be free for everyone that purchased the full self-driving. And we don't know what the cost will be to do the upgrade, but it'll be an in-place fix. It won't be incredibly cumbersome. It'll take 30 minutes or so, they said, at a service center. And so I argue the point about being a generalized worldwide system, and if that's necessary. I do agree that things like sensors in the roads and all that, while might be difficult to implement and unlikely to get some kind of agreement on standards within the next 5 years even, I do think that you probably should localize the software versions, so that way, a car made in the United States has some pre-existing knowledge of the roadways in the United States, which could be very different from other parts of the world, notably driving on which side of the road, also just how you handle things like pedestrians on the road and those kind of things. So I disagree that you need a perfect global worldwide solution, because I just don't think that's really possible. I do think that you can achieve what he's saying without all the sensors and stuff, but it certainly would be nice if there was some kind of infrastructure enhancements or anything, even if it was just to the matter of these lanes are painted and maintained well enough for self-driving cars, and so you get on the road and boom, it just works. Kind of like how you have an HOV lane now. I could definitely in the future see incremental improvements that allow like different levels of autonomy when it comes to self-driving cars. So that's my prediction, kind of my thoughts on what he said, and I brought that up because it kind of stuck out to me, that whole point about the worldwide bit. Now, the next thing that he talked about was one of the things he talked about that stood out to me was going private. Kara asked him, do you need to go private? Are you still contemplating that? Elon responded and said, we don't need to go private. I think going private we could execute better if we were private. He mumbles a lot. So, and then she said, right, the stock just roared up this week or the past week. And then Elon responded and said, yeah, it's gone up. It tends to end up being like a mood, to some degree, a mood thermometer. So it's like the stock goes down, people are sad and feel undercompensated. And then when the stock goes up, people are exuberant, overly exuberant. And Kara jumps in and says, normal? He says, yep. you get distracted thinking about what you're going to buy. So like neither of these things are great. When you have big moves in the stock, it just causes distractions. So I completely agree. I do think Tesla could execute better if they were private. Obviously, Dell did this. Is one of the, I think, probably only like real examples where it worked. And you know, people will argue like, oh well, the company's growth and this and that. It's like with Tesla being private, I think the benefit would be they wouldn't be subject to such kind of external pressures. And being one of the most shorted stocks in the world, it's one of those things where it really just kind of kills their ability to innovate in that pace. And so I do like the idea. Of course, there's some financial implications to consider and things like that. But I don't know. I hope they kind of keep pursuing it because I think they could do a lot better. Now, I would miss the earnings calls and those kind of things. But, you know, I think overall it would be a better choice for them. That's my thoughts anyways. Next, they talked about the product roadmap. And she was asking about making motorcycles. Elon said, we're not going to make motorcycles, but a few more Tesla products that are cool, we're almost done with. And the this is the piece that stood out. He said, we're almost done with the development of the solar tile roof. So we have those on a few hundred roofs right now, and we're just doing testing to make sure they have long-term durability. So that stuck out to me because they're still doing development on it. And I think I started already taking orders on this years ago. A lot of us, you know, we remember the unveiling of it being like, oh my God, I want that for my house today. And so it seems kind of odd that he was saying, oh, hey, yeah, by the way, you know, we're still working on that. And then so he continued, he said, the solar tile roof where it looks like a normal, beautiful tile roof, but it's actually solar. And that development process is longer than we'd like because we've got to make sure that the roof's going to stand up for 30 years. And even when you do accelerated lab testing on a solar roof, it still takes a while. And we've got to put a lot of work into making the installation process easy so it doesn't take ages to install a roof. So 2 bits about that is that I was surprised that they are still like developing it and that they have it installed on a few hundred roofs. That sounds like a whole lot. We haven't seen too much out there. I know there have been a few videos of folks that have actually interviewed people that have them. I know Elon and JB have them, etc. But it's one of those things that those numbers really stood out to me as something that was different than what my current understanding was. So let me know what you guys think. And if you get a chance, you know, it's 80 minutes long, go listen to that because I'm sure it's fantastic. I have set aside some time. I'm going to finally go listen to the whole thing, but if you're not, you know, that Q&A link that I just showed you is also available. Okay. Next, I want to talk about some Australian stuff. And this is that Elon confirms the Australian Tesla Model 3 delivery date. And it sounds like mid-2019, you guys in Down Under will be getting your Model 3. And I believe here's the tweet right here. So the question was, I've noticed the delivery date of my Australian reservation has disappeared from the website. It was late 2019. Any ideas when the Model 3s will be available in Oz? And he said around 2019. So that's good news. So stoked for you guys. And he also said that it basically will be the same for the UK. So this is an interesting thing because what we may see in Q4 is a bit of a dip in terms of production, even deliveries and sales and stuff in the US, because what they're doing is working on the European and then the Australian models. So, you know, things may change. It's an interesting road ahead, but great news for all the folks that have literally been waiting for years for this out there in Europe and in Australia. So And that brings us a bit to some other international news, and that is that apparently the Jaguar I-Pace is doing better in Norway than the Model X. Now, Norway is important because it has a high adoption. I think it has the highest adoption per capita of electric vehicles, if you include plug-in hybrids. Plus, their DMV is completely transparent, which gives good visibility into new vehicle trends. Amazing. And the I-Pace, I think, did did better in October than the Model X did. So you can see right here, kind of all the different sales of it, and I'm surprised by that. Seriously. Now the Model S is also down there. I mean, this is a big thing. Now I know in Norway they have some incentives. I believe there's no tax on electric vehicles. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. But they're also supposed to see other things like the Audi e-tron and some other stuff. So starting to see some more competition, and Norway is a really good place to look because they're, they have the largest adoption of EVs overall. In terms of per capita. Now, really what happens is what's going to matter is when it comes to China, because China is the big market. And so I think with the Model 3 push that's going on there, that's really where we're going to see kind of huge growth for a company like Tesla. But it is interesting that that in Norway, that Tesla isn't really crushing it as they are kind of in other parts of the world. I'm curious, if you're in Norway, what do you think about this? Is there some reason why this is happening? I remember there was the Tesla tax that they were kind of famously touting or whatever, where it was going to be cars above a certain vehicle weight, and it basically was only Teslas. But then they got rid of that. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think. Next, I want to talk about some more financial stuff, and this is some good stuff. And so let me get rid of that little pop-up. Yep, there we go. So this story comes to us from the Times, UK, and this is that the Tesla backers are ready to put more money into Tesla. Ballygifford partner Nick Thomas told the Times of London it would back Musk if they needed more capital. Musk, in the interview he just did with Kara Swisher, said definitely not, don't need more money. But if so, and now the firm, Ballygifford, holds 7.72% stake in Tesla, and said it backed CEO Elon Musk's long-term visions for the company. The quote was, if he needs more capital, we would be willing to back him, Nick Thomas said. The fund manager said Mr. Musk was an entrepreneur of vision and ambition who's working towards a social good, which I think a lot of us also agree and feel the same way. In addition to this, we had Larry Ellison of Oracle, which, raise your hand if you remember Oracle as the most popular database, kind of the only one that was enterprise software back in the day, and we were all astounded about how much money Larry Ellison made. Sorry, taking me back. This guy has been in my consciousness for many, many years. So anyway, he also has a big stake, and he said that he would he sees a lot of upside, and that he would invest more. And of course, Ellison is one of the world's 500 richest people. For a long time, people thought of him like neck and neck with Bill Gates, if you guys aren't familiar with him at all. And then in response to criticism of Elon, Larry Ellison defended him, said, this guy is landing rockets. He's landing rockets on robot drone crafts in the ocean. And you're saying he doesn't know what he's doing. Well, who else is landing rockets? You ever land a rocket on a robot drone? Who are you? So I just love kind of the Larry Ellison's bravado there in kind of defending Elon. So it's an interesting bit, but anyone out there that's questioning whether or not Tesla and Elon could find money if they need it for whatever the thing is, yes, the answer is yes. Publicly stated by people with tons of money that are already invested in them, saying they will give more and do more. So you can just dispel any rumors or myths about that you may see out there. All right. Next, I want to talk about the updates to Autopilot. And I talked about this on the podcast that I have with Joe Scott from Answers with Joe and Tim Dodd from the Everyday Astronaut channels. You can go check that out. It's at ourludicrousfuture.com if you guys weren't aware. We get together each week. We kind of talk about space, science, and Tesla, / electric vehicles, whatever's going on there, which is mostly Tesla stuff. But anyways, that's at Our Ludicrous Future. Each week we do that. So if you're looking for a new podcast, go check it out. And the way I want to introduce this is just taking a look at what's going on with Autopilot. So if you haven't been here in a while, this is the website tesla.com/autopilot, right? This lists essentially what's going on. And with that, what you can see when you go down here are, all the things about the sensors, how the sensors work. I think this is a pretty cool visualization showing essentially what's going on, what the car is doing at all times. And then you have this Tesla Vision talking about the cameras, et cetera, et cetera. Then you get into this section about enhanced autopilot. Now, this section I find interesting because it lists things that until very recently were basically not available. And so the first thing it lists is this on-ramp to off-ramp navigation, function where we can call it drive on nav or navigate on autopilot. It will take you from the moment you get on the freeway around cars and then all the way, to merging onto other freeways, and then eventually off the freeway where it'll ask you to take control. This is now here. This exists. I just did a video testing it. I actually did a 360 video. The quality of the footage wasn't right, so I'm going to kind of reshoot that, but it's pretty incredible, honestly. It works exceedingly well. I'm thoroughly impressed with it. And when you think about it, I don't know about you guys and what your situation is, but for me, from my house to my office, I drive a half a mile to get on the freeway, and then after I get off the freeway, I drive another half a mile. So I literally can get on the freeway, turn this on, and then not have to touch the wheel or take over steering control until I get off the freeway, and through that merge across 3 different freeways. That's pretty incredible. It works exceedingly well. So this is now here. Navigate on autopilot is here. Now, there's some other stuff here that isn't here yet. So Auto Steer Plus, I think people argue is here, where the car will navigate on really kind of windy roads. That's cool. That's a thing, but not exactly, because you're not supposed to use it on surface streets because it doesn't recognize things like stoplights or stop signs yet. So it's one of those things where, yeah, maybe it's here, but I'm not going to be testing it, and I don't know any freeways that are like this. So maybe. Then this is the latest one that we know is coming. This is called Smart Summin. Let me zoom in a little bit for you here. And so with Smart Summin, the idea is that your car will be able to kind of pick you up in front of your front door and then go park itself in your garage or whatever. Now, there are a couple pieces missing on this to be 100% ready. One is that its communication with the garage door, if you have a garage door, isn't perfect. And I say that because it doesn't inherently know if the garage door is open or closed. And so at times you may hit a summon button and it would come out and meet you, but if your garage is already open, it literally activate the garage and try to close on itself. So there's some challenges here. I think that those will all be resolved, but this is awesome because it's getting towards Batman mode, is what I'm calling it, where literally the car will come pick you up from wherever you're at, like let's say a restaurant or an office or something, and then you hit a button and it will go park itself. That is wild to me. And so this came out in Elon's tweets, where he said a Tesla Advanced Summin, and that's what we're calling it, Smart Summin, ready in around 6 weeks, just an over-the-air software upgrade, so you'll work on all cars made in the past 2 years, Autopilot hardware version 2 plus. He continued to say the car will drive to your phone location and follow you like a pet if you hold down the summon button on the Tesla app. Yeah, I'm going to test that. Okay. He continued and said, also, you will be able to drive it from your phone remotely like a big RC car if in line of sight. Yep, going to do that. Okay. Also, okay, and then the same one, and then Mike Kasprix asked about Auto Summon coming to Canada, and he said aiming for next week. This was 4 days ago, so maybe that's coming this week. We'll see, because I'm not sure. Let me know if you guys are in Canada, if you even have Summon at all right now, but it sounds like it's not. So maybe that's separate bit of news that's also really cool for you guys. So I still believe true full self-driving is a ways away, but all of these features are getting to the point where you kind of question, like, is it good enough, right? Is it good enough for the car to basically only work, only do the self-driving bit on the freeway? Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. That will save a ton of the time that you have to actually drive. Now, of course, we're not 100% there yet. You still need to pay attention, hands on the wheel, et cetera, et cetera. But let's say that, within a couple of years that's available. Then you can literally, go to sleep or something while it's driving on the freeway because it's going to be fine. Awesome. That's still not full autonomy, but I do think that like all these incremental changes are going to make it to where you can kind of be okay with it, right? Like if you only really have to drive 10% of the time and the other 90% it does it, that's great. Like that's good enough, I think. So let me know what you guys think about that. I am super excited about this Summon feature. I can't wait to check it out. All right, next I want to the last story of the day is about this crazy thing where a boulder actually came through the Model 3 and the owner was still able to drive and steer it to safety. So the safety of the Model 3 is pretty incredible, and one of those reasons is because there's a large crumple zone in front of the car. Of course, it doesn't mean anything when a boulder comes crashing down, but thanks to the all-electric design, this driver was still able to steer the car to safety despite this massive impact that shifted the steering column. So you can kind of see these photos here. It's kind of wild, this giant boulder that came crashing down here, and the guy said he's actually going to keep it kind of as a momentum of what could have happened. So, yeah, fun stuff. Glad he's okay. And man, the positive stuff around the safety of this vehicle is just keeps rolling in. All right, guys, that's it for the news today. I'm going to hop over to Q&A now. Going to start with the folks on Patreon, because that is one of the awesome benefits that you get by joining us on Patreon. You can get kind of backstage access. You can see the upcoming videos I have planned. You can even submit and vote on what news stories to cover, all that kind of stuff for as little as $1 a month. So it certainly helps things, keep the lights on around here and all that. So if you want to support the show, you can do that at teslanomics.co/Patreon. And thank you in advance. All right. First and foremost, let me see. I don't know if you know if I have this set up. I'm being a bad host today. Hey, there it is. Imagine that. Look, it works. First question comes to us from Bridget. Bridget says Tesla is now offering, according to an article on Electrek, new owners 30 days of free autopilot, enhanced autopilot, and then a reduced price on purchase. Do you think they will give owners who only got 2 weeks trial? Do you think they will give that to owners who only received a 2-week trial? And in my case, Summin worked only one of those weeks. Another 2 weeks and then a discount. Yeah, that seems like a reasonable request to me. I still contend that it should be entirely free. I think that Autopilot should be 100% free for all owners, because with real world data, not phantom data or shadow data or whatever kind of thing that people talk about that I think isn't real, with real world testing and real world data, it will help them accelerate the speed to the full self-driving. And so I still think it should be free 100%, but I think your request is reasonable. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Bridget. Jeff asks, and let me see if I can make this a bit bigger here. Nope, I cannot, because that makes things... Boom, there we go. Oh, man. One more. There it is. Sorry about the off-screenness there. I'll try to zoom in a little bit here. Okay, Jeff asks, Elon said that he will likely later create a mass market truck, just a matter of time. Okay, not a question. Jeff asks again, I love that you do these Q&As. It really helps me feel connected. Like what I have to contribute truly matters. Thank you, Jeff. I think it does. I think that everyone that subscribes here, that watches these videos, that comments, we all help, move this needle forward and try to get us towards that sustainable forms of transportation, because it's really what I'm all about here. So, okay. Your question, how much do you know about electric traction drive range extenders? Any thoughts? I know nothing about them, and so I do not have any thoughts, but if there is a method or a way of something that will extend the range of your vehicle, I am very excited about that possibility. Okay, so next, we have Shamburn, who asks, car crash test question. Do companies have to send vehicles for the crash test like mandatory? And then afterwards, how do we know that crash was given a rating in the same specs? Yes. So as far as I understand, the crash ratings and all those kind of things for the cars is something that is, at least in the U.S., dictated by the NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic and Safety Board. Could be wrong, but my understanding is that is exactly the case. And also why, if there's like a later version with an update, that has to be tested separately, I believe. So yeah, I think that's pretty standardized and part of some kind of regulation somewhere. But let me know if I'm wrong, but I believe that to be the case. Cool. Thanks for the question, Chamburn. All right, now let's head over to the Q&A, which also is not working, on Crowdcast. And again, if you want to get on this, you need to join us on our email list at teslanomics.co. Then you can ask questions here, and as you can see, people vote on those questions, which I particularly like, because then it kind of ensures that the ones that are the most interest bubble up to the top, as well as when I click start answering here, it timestamps my response, and then later you can go back in Crowdcast and just view the answers to the questions if you don't have a chance to watch the whole thing, as I completely understand. Alrighty, so here we go. BobbyG asks, in release 2018-42.3 release note, it states your car now supports Key Fobs, which may be available for purchase from Tesla in prior. It says which may be available. Oh, I thought it said they were available. In prior statements, Tesla indicated that these would be provided to current Model 3 owners. Do you know if there will be a charge or not? So I saw your question earlier. I did reach out to Tesla. They are looking into it and going to provide me with an answer. So I believe that was the case before. I think you're correct that they were going to provide them for current owners, and then new owners, they would come standard, and then you could also purchase them or something like that. But I'm not sure. We'll see kind of what they come back with, and then if you guys figure out more, I'm sure it'll be on Reddit or something before I find out the answer. So when I asked earlier today, they didn't have a clear answer for me, so I don't have one for you either. I apologize. But thanks for joining me, and thanks for the question, Bobby. Tom asks, with all things Tesla continuing to move along, have you heard news on where they plan on making upcoming products? This is the $64,000 question. My guess is that they retrofit an existing factory. The other big guess that a lot of people are talking about is expanding the Gigafactory in Nevada to actually also make vehicles, which would make a lot of sense because the powertrains, you literally have zero or very, very minimal transportation from one end of the factory to the other. Yeah, hard to say where, but I do assume that we'll hear news about this sometime soon because it definitely is coming up. So thanks for the question, Tom. Bridget asks, just check stats on Tesla. Well, I think sometimes the app can be a bit buggy, work in progress, I'm sure. It seems I've lost 20 miles in phantom drain on each of 3 days last week. Average temp 67. Have you had a chance to check out drain with version 9 yet? I did see, I was looking at some data. I don't have a definitive answer for you, but I did see a spike recently with version 9. And so I'm digging in, as well as the team that makes the app are digging in to try to isolate, to see exactly what that would be, because I think that it's something that we need to nail down. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Bridget. I hope that doesn't continue. I have not seen that in mine. Carlo asks, hi Ben, do you have any idea when the Model 3 Key Fob will be made available? What are your hopes for the Summin feature on the future updates? Talked about the Summin stuff already. Going to have a lot of fun with that. The Key Fob, I don't know. Hopefully soon, because the release notes show it. I absolutely could use it. Give you just a real world example. My wife was picking up my son from school the other day, was stuck outside of the car for like a full 10 minutes, calling me, having us reset the password, all that. Turns out Bluetooth on her phone was off, and it wouldn't let her in, and she didn't happen to have the card with her because it's just one of those things, you don't always have all that stuff with you. So a key fob in that case would have been much appreciated, albeit a bit more cumbersome to carry than some of the other stuff. So yeah, I hope soon. Thanks for the question, Carlo. Walt asks, I have the latest update, 42.3, and I'm experiencing trouble connecting to my car through Summin. I do live in a remote area with little or no cell service, but doesn't the car connect through Bluetooth to the phone for Summin? I also do have Wi-Fi, which the car receives, and so does the phone. It's a good question. I'm not sure. Cell phone would be... yeah, I have to guess it's Bluetooth. I haven't tested that, but I would have to imagine it's Bluetooth, because otherwise sending it through the cell, like just even the little tiny delay between the two would be enough to where it'd be really buggy and weird. So I'm gonna guess that it's Bluetooth, but I also have had that issue, and I get a warning about the proximity sensor of your phone is covered or something. I can't really make sense of it. Summin is not perfect, but then again, I don't really for me, it's not a feature I use a lot. Sometimes I do it. Mostly it's a party trick to kind of show people kind of the wild tech that exists in these cars. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe do some testing. Try turning off Wi-Fi, turning off mobile data, just Bluetooth, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe that'll help you narrow it down. Thanks for the question, Walt, and I hope you get that result. Barry asks, in an interview with Kara Swisher, Elon indicated that full self-driving will be available within a year or two. You thought that it would take about 10 years. Is this Elon being Elon? Yeah, so just to be clear about me in my 10-year timeline, that is a full self-driving vehicle, which means it could not have a cell signal whatsoever. It doesn't have to have anything. It just works 100% of the time, and you can literally go to sleep in the back of the car. I still definitely stand by that. Now, whether or not they have strong enough technology for it to be available today, by the time that will be publicly available for me and you, even with regulation and all that kind of stuff, even if it goes exceedingly quick, I still see you're about 10 years out. I do think that we'll see between now and then lots of incremental improvements that have that feeling of full self-driving. Like, for example, level 3 autonomy would definitely feel like your car is self-driving, and it would be, but definitely would not be level 4. Level 4, again, is you can reliably completely ignore the car. It will do 100% of the work 100% of the time. You will never, ever have to gain control of the vehicle. Ever. That's level 4. Level 3 is you will have to take control in key or critical situations. So there is it's one of those things, the Pareto curve there, where getting 80% of the way there will feel amazing. That last 20% is where it's going to take all the work, and that's why I think we're going to be years and years away before this is just a reality. Like for my son, for example, who is 3, I don't think he will ever have to drive a vehicle, because by then it will be just completely natural to have a self-driving vehicle. Now, you think about it, that's still, a really aggressive time horizon. The bigger question, I think, a more interesting one, how many years until it's illegal for humans to drive on public roads? I think that is a really interesting question, because eventually that will be the case. For example, I can't go take a horse down the freeway, right? They're clearly not allowed. So how long will it be, before self-driving cars, that are fully autonomous versus humans driving them, where a human driving it was more of a hobbyist activity, racetracks and things like that. Old dinosaurs like me will actually enjoy driving. So we'll see. Whether or not the technology is available, I don't think answers the question of when it'll be available publicly. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Barry. Probably should do another video on that, because I feel like it's a really interesting topic. So George asks, this webcast is always invaluable for the Model 3 owner. Well, you're welcome. Thanks, George. By the way, I did get excused from jury duty. That's why I'm here today. I actually enjoyed serving on a jury before, so I'm not against getting like jury duty and all that. I do think it's important, but they were able to excuse me because I am sort of a one-man band here. And when you're the only person running your own business, you're allowed to get excused. So that's why I'm here for you. Okay, so back to your question. You said, are you finding that the Dashcam automatically records every 60 seconds with consecutive new files until the flash drive is full? Then the X appears, the icon. Seems like a programming glitch. What's the best way to communicate this to Tesla? I haven't found that. Have you? I'm curious. Now I have. And I did create a little resources guide on my kit page, which I'll put a link in the description for you, where I list out the items I bought for mine. And so I bought this little thing. It's called Fit. I think it's SanDisk Fit USB flash drive. It's literally just the size of the USB port itself. And so that way, because the other one I had sticks out, if you reach your hand in there, you could knock it, break it, whatever. And I got a 128 gig drive. And since I did that, I switched from this old 32 gig one that I had. I haven't had any issues at all. So I don't know, maybe I'll run into that in the future. My understanding is though that it will kind of cap out and then overwrite other files. So I have had that corruption issue though many times in the past prior to upgrading. So I'll actually put a comment to that thing that I'm talking about in your question here after we're done with the show. So in case you want to go check it out, maybe that'll help you. Thanks for the question, George. Brian asks, what's your knowledge of the time frames for the Y, the Roadster, and the pickup, the weird semi one from the semi unveil, and the actual pickup truck? So the Y should be unveiled March of next year. That's currently what most of us are planning on. And then production would be 2020. Same with the Roadster. Pickup, I don't think we have anything official on that, or any details there. So maybe 2023, 2025. We don't really know yet. It'll be a ways down the road. And I'm actually, there were some really interesting comments in that Q&A with Kara Swisher that Elon had about the truck that actually make it sound like it's probably not for most people, which is kind of my impression when they first talked about it. I do have a video, I think, where I broke down everything we currently know about the pickup truck. So you can go check that out. But the thing that really sounded to me was that all those specs were basically work trucks type things, like large utility type trucks, not the kind of truck a normal person would buy, a normal American in the United States would buy. So anyways, yeah, more to come on that, I guess. Stay tuned. I'm super excited about the Model Y unveiling though, because I'm definitely putting a deposit down, if for nothing else, to make videos for you guys. So thanks for the question, Brian. Phil asks, it seems that with the current hardware, the introduction of the neural net is taking shape, and I'm curious to see its limits. So is the speed and processing of any given image in time the limiting factor, and can Tesla prove the industry that LiDAR is not required? Yeah, it's extremely complicated, but I'll give you my understanding, and I do have maybe a little bit more insight into this than the average bear. So you have, as Elon actually just stated, you have 8 cameras, and each one has its own neural net processing those images. Then you have to combine all of those into a decision-making algorithm, essentially, as to what to do. And you have to do it in extremely low latency, meaning you're traveling 70, 80 miles an hour down the road. This thing needs to be able to respond quick enough to make that adjustment in order to, say, avoid an accident or anything like that. Now, actually, when you're doing something like navigation, like the new Drive on Nav, it actually is a lot easier because it knows what you're going to do. Prior to that, it didn't necessarily know your intention. It's just going to drive forever on the lane you put it in. Now it has an intention, which is pretty cool. So that actually kind of limits those things. The challenge, I believe, is the computation necessary, and this is also what they've talked about with the new chip that they're making, and I think they're already off to testing and all that. So hopefully early next year we'll start to see those get installed in people's cars. I do think it's going to work. I don't know how long until that actually is up and running. Really, I think the thing that'll be interesting is when we start to see features that are full self-driving vehicles only versus enhanced autopilot vehicles. I think that will be cool, because right now, up to this point, the only thing that you've got for giving them $3,000 years ago potentially is the hedging on the cost of upgrading after the fact, which, if you look at interest rates and all that, probably isn't that much of a winning bet. So yeah, lots to come. Hopefully, maybe at the March unveil of the Model Y, we'll see more details on that, because I think it'd be super interesting. Thanks for the question, Phil. Ali asks, why did the autopilot price for after buying the car change from $5,500 to $6,000? I think it went down, didn't it? I thought it went change. You mean to $5,500? I just read that a few minutes before I started. And then I looked on the site and it didn't look any different, at least not for the Model 3. So why did it change? I don't know. They're probably trying to get it in more people's hands. Yeah, hard to say. The pricing with Tesla stuff, man, it is up and down. It's as volatile as the stock is. So definitely make sure if you're going to buy, you don't wait, because who knows what's going to happen. Dennis asks, do I have to accept version 9 software update on my Hardware 1 Model X? I've heard that I will lose the ability to keep the rear view camera at the top of my split screen. And in general, what does version 9 software do for Hardware 1 vehicles? That's an interesting question. Do you have to accept it? I guess no, technically. You might be missing out on updates to Autopilot and like the new Drive on Nav feature. Although with Hardware 1, I don't think you get that. I don't know if there's a huge benefit to that in terms of consumer-facing stuff, right? There might be other kind of back-end things or other updates. But yeah, as far as I understand it, it does prevent you from having the camera on the top versus the bottom. And they did introduce some new features that you may be able to adjust that, but I'd have to go Google that to find the answer, because I don't recall exactly what it was. I mean, it's up to you. I think the security updates and all those kind of things are important, and so I would totally do it. Also, I personally don't understand the need to have that camera there. I have a Model S, which also has kind of a tough visibility in the rear view, but maybe with Hardware 1, you should get kind of the view of the cars around you, obstacle avoidance, those kind of things, or like the lane detection thing. Hopefully that would work. I don't know if that's only Hardware 2 or not, but it's a tough choice, I guess. But I would do it personally. Thanks for the question, Dennis, and let me know what you find. Let me know what you do there. Curious. Leo asks, recently I took a trip in my Model 3 from New York City to Boston. Round trip, I stopped off 4 times at superchargers to top off 3 times in Connecticut, once in Rhode Island. I can see in my account history the charge for Rhode Island. I see an invoice for one of the trips in Connecticut. It shows the amount of kilowatt hours, but next to it, it says no charge. And the other 2 stops in Connecticut doesn't even show up. Did I find a glitch? Is Connecticut not charging for supercharger trips? You know, you're not the first person I've heard this from. It wasn't specific to Connecticut, but there do seem to be certain superchargers out there that if you use them, don't charge you for usage on a Model 3. I don't know. Maybe we'll start a new Reddit thing or something like that, a little map. But hey, enjoy it and, you know, write those down, because then maybe next time you won't have to pay. Yeah. And yeah, congrats. Thanks for the question, Leo. Franz asks, hi, Ben. I hope you have a theory of operations for Summin. Summin is driving me crazy. It works, then it doesn't. Can you please explain how it truly works? Does it use Bluetooth or Wi-Fi? Does it require? Sounds like a video I need to make because I need to go test it. Can they all be on? Do one or the other need to be off? If I knew what kind of signal it expects, I might have a chance figuring out what was wrong. Yeah, I've had very mixed results with it myself. I haven't done thorough testing on it because generally I don't need to use it. In fact, I drive my Model S, which is a 2013 model, without any of these features, as I and some others like to affectionately call the driver's edition Teslas. And so I don't know. But you know, maybe I'll go dig in, because it seems like a worthwhile experiment to find out. And I too, when I have had to use it, have had very mixed results. So you're not alone. Mike asks, what are your thoughts on Elon's tweet about giving $5,000 refund to the owner of the P Plus cars, the Model 3s you're talking about, because of the recent $5,000 price drop? Is it a wise move for Tesla? People configuring new cars are getting $5,000 price reduction baked in, but those who were early adopters are unsure about how it might work. Any insight into that, or the wisdom of the foregoing free supercharging to obtain the refund? I would go with the refund personally. Depending on how many road trips you take, it's clearly the better financial move. Unless you get free supercharging for life, and then you'd have to keep the car. I think I estimated it at $500 a year when I did some simple math on it. Again, it really depends on how much you drive long distance and need to use superchargers, or if you happen to use them for your home charging. It likely your best bet financially is to take the $5,000 discount. I don't think it's a bad idea for Tesla. I think that in the grand scheme of things, it's insignificant, but certainly it would be nice if they just shored this up and had a straightforward pricing model, as they kind of have had in the past. This is the first time I think we're really seeing like this wild fluctuation in it. So yeah, my thoughts. Thanks, Mike. Good luck. Zach asks, I took ownership of a new model S75D last March. Even though it is advertised getting 259 miles, when I charge it to 100%, the highest mileage I've experienced is 253. Is this normal? Should I have said something after delivery? I have a friend that has experienced the same thing. I haven't experienced any loss. It's just that it never got to the advertised total. So there's 2 things there, Zach. Are you talking about actually driving the distance and taking it to 0? Or are you talking about just what it shows internally, because those 2 things are very different. And so I would guess you would definitely get the 259 if you drove it to 0, but because usually there's like 10 to 12 miles of additional driving after you hit 0. Not to say I would recommend testing that, but I don't know if it's a big deal. I would call the service center and see what they say. It shouldn't have that. My 2013 model, just now when I go 100%, it started with 200 miles flat, and just now when I charge fully, it goes to 198. My friend Eric also mentioned there's something called battery rebalancing, which I've not tested, but you can Google that. Somebody probably has a post on how to do it, but I believe it's like drive it down to 0, then charge it right back up immediately following that to 100, and it'll kind of rebalance things. So there's something about reporting it versus the real world driving range and all those kind of things. So yeah, it's hard to say exactly. That's essentially what our app Tesla app does, is helps you track these things and figure out kind of what you're getting. So if you haven't started or checked that out, I would definitely recommend it. You can go to Tesla app, that's TEZLAB app.com, download it. It's free, all that kind of stuff. Down the road we may introduce more paid features, or that's kind of the plan. So but right now it's free to use, so go check it out. Thanks, Zach, and I hope you figure it out. Rick asks, with the coming 5G, will Tesla add 5G to existing models? Start building it into 2019 vehicles or just keep 4G LTE as the cars? So the thing I would question here, Rick, and maybe your understanding is greater than mine, but 5G is not cell service. It is home service. It is wireless, and it is using the 5G band or technology or whatever, but it's not made for cell phones that I understand, or nor mobile devices. So what that means is that you need to have, if I understand it correctly, you need to have a direct line of sight between your receiving device, like your router or your antenna, to one of the I don't know, the towers, I guess. And I believe it uses, is it called micrometer or millimeter wave technology? So it's not something that is commensurate to like 4G LTE, as far as I understand. So my guess is no, until there would literally be a 5G tower within line of sight everywhere you go, which I don't really imagine being the case. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about it, but my understanding is that that's what 5G is, and it's not something that's just going to replace 4G in your mobile devices, nor would it in a car. It's something that's going to replace your cable internet at home. So that's my understanding. Let me know what you find if I'm wrong about that. Walt asks, do you get guidance on Elon's comments regarding in 6-week advanced autopilot and another tweet by next year the car will find a parking space? Yeah, I'm just dying for that. Check for handicap, no parking, park itself, then come out when you get called. Are those in the 6 weeks from now version or subsequent? You know, I don't know, man. Who knows with Elon? I'm hoping. So he said 6 weeks. I'm hoping that's available by the end of the year. I would say that's a pretty awesome win. If not, probably early next year is the best guess. Thanks, Walt. Les asks, with the mid-range Model 3 being produced, do you know what its battery size is? Thank you for all you do. You're welcome. I don't know what its battery size is. Maybe someone on Electrek or one of the Tesla Motors clubs or somebody has kind of reverse engineered that. You could probably guess at what it is, but no, I don't know. And they're kind of going away with that concept of the size of the battery, which probably the reason they're probably doing that in my mind is either somebody said, hey, we should do marketing in human terms, not technical terms, or they're finding really awesome ways to advance the battery technology, and they want to start getting away from us talking about the amount of kilowatt hours that it can hold. So that might be an interesting angle to start transitioning us away from that and start just talking about it in more kind of normal terms, mid-range, long-range, standard. Thanks for the question, Les. All right, last question. Donald asks, Ben, the timestamp on my Dashcam recording is 5 hours off. Is it 5 hours ahead? I think it's GMT, isn't it? Greenwich Mean Time, like London time. I think that's what it is, because I recall seeing that same thing as well. Or maybe your car clock is off. I don't know. Hard to say. In any event, thank you everyone for joining me yet again for another fun week of breaking down the latest Tesla news. I'm Ben Sullins. This is the show Teslanomics, and don't forget, when you free the data, your mind will follow. I'll see you guys back here in the next one. Cheers.